If you're a high performer looking to grow and make an impact, but feeling stuck, underappreciated, and burned out at work, you're in the right place. I'm Melissa Vining, and this is the Job Search for High Performing Misfits podcast. I help high performers leave draining jobs behind, reclaim their careers, and land roles in organizations where they can thrive. Tune in for tips, insights, and inspiration for your journey to fulfilling work that fits you. This is the Job Search for High Performing Misfits podcast, and I am your host, Melissa Vining. Welcome back to episode 5 in my Job Search Reset series, where we are talking about doing hard things in your job search. Up until now, I've covered 4 steps you can take to transform your job search approach and move you forward faster towards your goal. Those things were very much intertwined and built off each other. Over the next 2 episodes, we're talking about a topic that really stands alone, but shows up in every aspect of the job search process, and that's human connection. There is no way around this, even in today's AI-powered world, and you could argue even more so because of today's AI-powered world. People still crave human connection, and when you are more human, you stand out. The reality is, humans are the final stakeholders in this whole thing because in the end, it's a human sitting across from you making the hiring decision. I'll cover one topic today because it's a bit of a bigger concept, and then I'm going to cover 2 more topics in the next episode. These are all things that people often tend to be very resistant to. So what I'm going to talk about here is actually harder in a way than the episodes that came before this because it requires you to be more vulnerable. This really pushes people out of their comfort zone. And as it turns out, most people don't like to be out of their comfort zone. So I'm going to say this, and there will be people out there, even other coaches, who will disagree with me. But in order to be really successful in the job search, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable because none of this is comfortable. And if you try to stay in your comfort zone, more than likely it is not going to work in this job market. So with that said, I'm going to get into the first strategy, which is authentic storytelling. When you get to this point, it's no longer just about your accomplishments alone. This is a place where you can take your personal brand statement that focuses on who you help, what you help them do, how you specifically help them. You can take that whole thing, and now you have to expand on it. Who are you as a person? What has your own path looked like? Why is it that you care about this work? So I'm going to use myself as an example and break down some of the different elements here. And this is not necessarily going to be in chronological story order. So the first part is who I am. This is hard on 2 different levels. So the first is having the self-awareness to even know these things deeply enough. And the second is having the confidence to be able to articulate them. If you missed my episode on strengths with Colleen Del Vecchio, go back and listen to that one for some more inspiration because you can pull a lot of the who am I part of this from your strengths. So for me, who am I involves some of my strengths and some of my identity kind of all wrapped up together. All of us have many different parts to our identities. And for me, there have been kind of 3 parts that are really core to who I am and have been true either for most or all of my life. So the first is that I'm a trained professional musician. This is something I've been doing for literally over 25 years since I was very young. And when you've been so immersed in that world from such a young age, it really becomes part of your identity in a way that many other professions don't. So for me, if you ask me, who are you? What do you do? My immediate thought and sometimes even response is, well, I'm a musician. The second part that comes to mind for me is that I'm a teacher. And you could argue this is something that's been true for a long time, even though I have not officially been in a teaching capacity my whole life, but it's something I do really naturally. I'm drawn to. And for the first 8 years of my career, I was teaching music in one way or another. Even now, when someone asks me what I do, sometimes I'll say, well, I do adult education. I'm teaching people job search skills every day, and I love that. The third part of my identity is that I'm neurodivergent, which is such a huge part of my identity and something that I've only known about as part of my identity for about a year because I was diagnosed very late. But of course, it's been who I am my whole life. And this was the missing piece for me in a lot of ways. And for anyone listening who has this as part of their identity, I'm sure you'll be able to relate to that. So I have these different identity elements, and then I also have the strengths that go along with them. So I'm going to use Clifton Strengths language here, and I'll put a link to the Clifton assessment in the show notes. So my top 5 Clifton strengths are deliberative, discipline, analytical, learner, and responsibility. And these show up in everything that I do. You might even be able to see how some of those are related to the core pieces of my identity that I just described. This is one of the great things about Clifton Strengths. It gives language to your personal traits in a way that translates so easily to so many different contexts. So I'm going to give you one example of how all of this ties together. Who I am, my kind of personal mission is that I'm always striving for excellence in everything that I do. So that means excellence for myself, for my team, any clients or students, or anyone that I'm supporting. The practical application of this is that I'm continually trying to improve in so many different areas. So I always want to learn more about the topics that I'm interested in. I want to have all of the information. I want to be an expert in that thing. And of course, that's a process that's never done because information always gets added or adjusted over time. Also, I want to streamline systems. I want to make things more efficient. If we're doing something that's wasting time or causing confusion or just could be better, it's like, hey, why don't we change this? So that's the identity part. The other part is about your path. What has this looked like? Why do you care about this work? And that often goes together. So for me, part of my story is a focus on my early career and how I really struggled to find my fit. You'll hear me talking about this a lot in my content because it's part of what makes me relatable and helps me create that human connection with my audience. When I first started telling this story about how I was a chronic job hopper and had more than 20 jobs before the age of 30, I was so uncomfortable. I really did not want to give out that much personal information. It feels so personal, but I did it because I knew the audience needed it. And I've gotten such a strong positive reaction from people about this story because they see that I've been there and I understand them. So you have the story, and then you have the part that explains your why. Why is it that you care about this work? What motivates you to do this? Why is this important to you? So for me, I want to help you succeed. I want to make sure you don't go through the same confusion and frustration that I went through when I was trying to find my fit. That's important to me. And being able to be an expert in job searching and being able to teach people how to do this effectively and authentically is something that I care about because I lived through it. Now, your why might not necessarily be related to lived experience, but everyone has a reason for doing what they do. So you have to figure out what your reason is and how you can speak to that in a compelling way. Once you have this story, you have to weave it into your LinkedIn About section, your cover letter, and the stories you tell during your interviews. Yes, this feels vulnerable, and it's definitely not easy, and it's definitely not comfortable. But this can set you apart, and this is what makes you human. This is what helps people relate to you. So go and spend some time figuring out how you're going to tell your story, and then meet me back here for the last episode in this series when we'll bring it all together with the final few human connection strategies. If you love this podcast, be sure to hit subscribe, leave me a review, and share it with a friend so we can help more high-performing misfits find work they love. See you next time.